Welcome to episode 97, Food. Join us as we explore our relationships with food. For example, eating to live versus living to eat. Or the ways in which the dominant culture often disconnects us from a sane, healthy interaction with the food that we put in our bodies. And how witches dive into the juicy, delicious foodie experience. Stay tuned. Welcome to the Witchy Wit podcast, where we look at life through a witchy lens. I'm Kimberlyn.
I'm Leilani.
At Witchy Wit, we explore current events,
Ideas,
music and books,
and experiences in ways that recognize energy and life in everybody and everything.
We are both real witches.
And we bring two real perspectives through the lens of our different ages,
races,
and backgrounds.
With a healthy skepticism for what we have been told is true, our conversations are raw, candid, and vulnerable.
Join us as we cast a spell to uncover what we each know is true in our intuitive, witchy selves.
Welcome to episode 97.
Food.
Yeah, I think I say that with a lot more resonance. Food. Alrighty, so
So let's maybe start with a check-in.
Yeah,
personally.
yeah.
Do you want to go first?
Let me go first. I lost my animal companion at the beginning of the month. We're recording this in October, the beginning of October, and it was really sweet and beautiful and peaceful, and I no regrets, and the only regret I might have is that I maybe should have done it a little bit sooner. But what are you gonna do? It happens when it happens. But it's an adjustment living without him. I mean, he's lived with me for 13 years. And so, through a move and a divorce and all that kind of stuff. And so it's not so much, there's a bittersweet feeling, there's some sadness, but not as much as I thought there'd be. But I just find, like, when I get out of the car, when I come in at the end of the day, when I get out of the car, my first thought has always been, okay, Snow, what do I need to do with Snow? If he's in, I need to let him out. If he's out, I need to figure out what we need to do at that point in time. And so I get out of the car, Snow leaps into my mind, so I haven't forgotten him at all. He leaps into my mind, and then before I even get in the door, I remember that Snow, I don't have to worry about that anymore. Mm-hmm. And so that's that's bittersweet, and but I can smile, about it. I'm on Nextdoor. Are you familiar with that? And so there is a guy who has rescued 3 dogs that were pregnant at the time that he rescued them. Yes. So he's got a shit ton of puppies, and I'm going to take over the puppy pee pads and some bowls and some nail clippers and stuff. And I found myself hoarding them, thinking, because I've always had a dog. I'm going to get another dog. Why should I give this away? Because I don't have a dog right now. Somebody really, really needs them. And when I do get a dog, probably the technology will have changed, and I want something bright and shiny and new, right? So I've been kind of working through that over the past couple of days, and recognizing what an abundance I have in my life because of him. I have an abundance of things because you buy stuff for the dog, but also the richness I had of having someone who put me first. I think we've had this discussion once before. And so Snow put me first. And, some of that was kind of artificially constructed because he had, I gave him no one else, but, which, if that's a dynamic that you might want to pursue, I don't know. But not having that right now is I think that's the hole in my heart. But I'm surviving, and I'm dealing, and as I say, it's very bittersweet. I have his ashes, and I had gotten a tree. It's so funny. The tree came, so he died on a Monday. My cousin came on a Tuesday, and in between, I had ordered a tree, and it had come in, I think Monday night or whatever. And I knew it was, because it was really, really cheap. I knew it was small, but it really looks like a houseplant. So I was trying to show it to my cousin who has visual problems anyway, and she kept looking out the window, and I said, no, it's in my hand. And so anyway, so it's this teeny little Texas ebony.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I'm going to plant that, and I'm going to fertilize it with some of Snow's ashes. So that way I won't be living without Snow. Snow will still be there. So
I want to point out too, was it last winter or the winter before that you lost the trees?
So I cut down trees. Last October. Wow. There's something there that I need to sit with.
So I was thinking about that, that literal full circle cycle, and then just me watching you transform it into life with the tree from the trees you lost and the ashes from him passing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me that perspective. I appreciate that. So what's going on with you?
Wow. Thank you for sharing.
Sure. I don't know if it's my pleasure, but thank you for giving me this space to do that. Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to share a boundary setting experience. I know that this is something that you and I are constantly coming back to, not only in our podcast episode, but also in our friendship and working together in a circle. A short story is that my sister and I have a garage sale every few years together, just because we collect stuff, and then the two of us come together to do it together. So it's not only productive in that we're selling and we're getting rid of things, but also it offers us time to be together, So for me, it's like a 2-for-1. So it's awesome. So we did that yesterday, and we have a rule that once you put it out in the garage sale, it cannot come back inside the house.
What?
So, because her and I both will be like, well, but I could, just like you said with Snow's like potty pads and stuff, right?
I live in that town,
but with this. Now that that sort of energy, so we hold each other accountable. Like, don't put that back. Don't put that in your car. Don't take that back in. So that's what we do. So then at the end of the garage sale, we box everything up, and then we take it to a local charity that will then thrift store sell it. And this charity, no charity is perfect. But I have personally seen the positive effects of this organization. With like job training and other things. So we're packing up the boxes, which we do like pretty like chaos. We're like, shoving stuff in boxes. Like, let's go. So we're like packing things up and shoving it in boxes. And this woman comes up. She parks and she comes up and she walks right up to me, very close, within like not in my personal bubble, but also like not. It was closer than, and I found it kind of odd. And she looks at me and she says very slowly, she says, I am with such and such church up, and which I know of this church. It's very close to where we live. I'm assuming she lives. And she like tells me this whole story about how they have a thrift store and they use it to fund their ministry. And so I looked at her and I said, well, we're packing stuff up right now. Would you like us to help? We could load these boxes into your car. Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, I'm fine. Like,
it does. Yeah.
It doesn't bother me, to like take the stuff. Sure. Mm-hmm. Like this is where my boundary setting came in, though. The next sentence, she then tells me, oh, well, my car is full. And then she like sat there and looked at me. And so then I was like, okay, well, we're packing stuff up and we're going to take it to the charity that I was going to take it to. Mm-hmm. Unless you wanted to take it now. Mm-hmm. And then she was like, well, I could come back and get small batches of it later. And I said, later today? And she's like, oh, well, no, and then she proceeds to like talk about how she might be able to get it in the next few, like it was very like vague. And so in my mind, I'm like, are you wanting me to just like house this for, I'm like, what are you asking of me, And she was she seemed very comfortable in asking and almost like entitled that it was something that she wanted.
But did she actually ask? What did she? Okay.
No, she never like actually asked it. She was implying it by saying that, well, she might be able to come in small batches in an undetermined amount of time, but not today. Mm-hmm. She seemed very comfortable in asking for it and also expecting me to comply is like the energy that I got. So then I said, well, we're taking it today. to this local this charity. And then she says to me, well, would you know that charity puts things into industrial dumps? And like my snap, I didn't say it, but my snap reaction was like, I wanted to say something really crappy to her about, well, do you know what Christianity has done to people? You know, like I wanted to clap back, but I didn't. And I said, that's where we're taking it. If you would like to take it now, you can. Otherwise, this is what we're doing. Yeah. So I found the interaction really interesting on a number of levels. Like some perspectives around like privilege, and I could tell that she was expecting a certain type of reaction. But another level that I found it really interesting is you and I are very similar in many ways, I think, and our conversations around boundary setting and people pleasing. And I had 0 instances. She did make it really easy for me to not feel guilty. So
that was helpful on her part.
That was really helpful on my part. But I really appreciated the work and the introspective that while I was having this conversation with her, I was having an entire conversation in my head with myself around the dynamics and what was going on and what I was thinking she was I'm noticing that it seems like she's expecting me to want to do this for her. Oh, I'm noticing that she seems to be implying that I should house this for multiple days for an undetermined amount of time until she feels like she can come by and pick it up in small batches. You know, like it just was a whole conversation, and I, in that moment, it was one of the first times I've ever really been clear enough with myself to have like this multiple conversations going on externally and internally. And I really appreciated that because as somebody who really values service and wants to help, I could have easily seen how this could have gone a different way. And then me getting really bitter that I am now housing these boxes that I do not want, waiting for somebody for, I don't know how, you know, for them to do what they need to do so that they can get what they want. But meanwhile, I'm getting upset. So
first I'd like to say, if you don't mind.
Yeah, please. I was so interested in, I wished you had watched it. That's my energy. So please, feedback, please.
Yes, queen. Yes, queen. Put that crown on.
Could I have had your no button?
Yes.
No.
Yes. Yeah. We all need a no button, don't we? Like, and whichever version of no came up at that time. Wow. Yeah. What impressed me as you were telling me this is that clarity, that sense of awareness that I'm hearing, where you could see exactly what the dynamic is, and maybe you felt your tendencies towards trying to be helpful. It's like Enneagram 2. And you said no. And so it was not only just boundaries with her, but boundaries with yourself, it seemed like. You know, don't you think?
Yeah, you're right. You're right, yeah.
So, yes, queen. Yes.
Thank you.
That's a YASS. Yes, queen. Yes.
Thank you.
Wow, yeah. And like that. Well, are you aware that they do this? Well, are you aware that you're a bitch? Right. But it would have been interesting to hear the story had you like let one of those come out. Like, well, you know, I find it really interesting that, you know.
Yeah, unless your church is zero waste, I don't really think you have a leg to stand on. And knowing your church, I don't think that there's zero waste.
Yeah, so there we go. Exactly. Wow, huge. Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Way to go.
Small, like little victories like that. After that, I was like, nice. And my sister too. She had monitored it, so she had some really great feedback for me too, like just witnessing.
Yes, good for you.
So.
And you know, it's so funny because I think I told you I'm listening to this book, the Enneagram for Black Liberation, and I've been listening to the Enneagram 2 several times just to kind of get some reinforcement. And that's, I mean, Enneagram 2s want to be helpful. They want to be, sometimes in a not healthy way, it's transactional, but in many cases we do that because that's our natural tendency is to, oh yeah, for sure. I understand you want to do this, you know, but good.
Thank you for
boundaries.
Seeing me.
Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you for celebrating me.
Some beautiful boundaries, gorgeous boundaries. Yeah.
Would you say delicious boundaries?
Delicious. I would say that, which is a smooth, or maybe not so smooth, but it's a segue nonetheless into our discussion for today.
Yeah. So today we're going to be discussing food, and I love that we're going to be talking about it in so many different contexts about our growing up with food, like our personal experiences with food, food in the media, food, like some political implications with food, cultural, and then also ritual. So we're really going to be hitting it in a lot of ways.
Yeah, so let's start with just kind of growing up, our experiences. Would you care to start?
Yeah, it's pretty, for me, it's pretty underwhelming. So,
okay.
Like food was never really a centerpiece in my household.
I'm going to interrupt for because you know what? Now it's coming. I'm thinking, why does it sound so familiar? Because of our kitchen episode, the Magical House kitchen episode. Yeah, so go back and listen to that. Too.
That would be for sure. Yeah, so I did share in there. Food was never really a center of my household. My grandmother was the only place where I really get that feeling of like food was service for her. Food was community and family and love and nurturing, but those were rare but powerful interactions that I had. But I have often found that I wish that I could do photosynthesis because I find it annoying to have to stop and eat. Like for me, a lot of ways food slows me down. Like that's my feeling. It's like I have to like stop what I'm doing or want to be doing so that I can eat. So it'd be cool, like, if I could just, like, photosynthesize energy and not have to deal with that.
That makes so much sense. And I think of, you know, other things as well. But, the idea that you have to stop doing what you're doing to eat. And then it might slow you down while you're digesting, right? And so it's just not a win-win at all for you.
For me, yeah. And like when we were on the Camino, I carried these like high calorie, like raw nutrition meal bars. They're like, they speak to my soul.
How do they taste? Because I've had some of those things. They're not. I'll be honest. I don't like them. The texture's kind of strange. For me, I don't like the taste. So what flavors? What do you like about them?
I got a variety pack, and it was fine. Like this is just like this dynamic is exactly where I'm talking about.
Gotcha. Okay. So it's like it did what it's supposed to do, which is nourish you, and that's all you cared.
Yeah, and honestly, like as I was walking through the Camino, I would just like chow down one, but it was probably taking up 5% of my consciousness because I was doing other things while I ate it.
Good for Wow. Okay.
So yeah. And then currently where I am with food is I would say my relationship with food has taken a major shift, probably one of the most major shifts in my whole life. I do enjoy it. Part of that is because of you, and we'll talk about that more later, but you have really taken me out to some delicious places that I would not have gone, and also enjoyed food with me in a way that I have not had modeled for me. Like, I have no one else like you in my life. So
thank you, my darling. I didn't want to say, but
in many ways, but specifically around food and like enjoying it and being like a full experience, more than just like let's go eat some good food. It's like it's a whole like sensory experience and it's a structure with which we plan the whole evening and enjoy around. So that's really awesome. Also with my like doctor talking to me about my high cholesterol and my issues with encroaching diabetes. I've also really been looking at it as trying to slowly learn about food as medicine, which has been really great. And then me with what I find is a really enjoyable and accessible way of like cooking through Holy Sacred TikTok. So
I love so much your experiences with how social media as a tool, as a fun tool, and not as time sink like it is for me. I don't,
Thank you.
I don't experience it the way you do. So, do you care to share more about the Holy Sacred TikTok?
If I can find a recipe, so there are some recipes like I follow one woman who does. She's like a vegan. She has vegan recipes, and it's like 30 grams of protein. It takes you less than 30 minutes to cook. Now, for me, it takes me about an hour to cook, but because she can chop faster, and and I'm like Googling like, what does blanching mean? Like I don't know. So,
I'm sorry. What was it? Jicama?
Oh, jicama.
Jicama.
Yeah.
May I share
Yeah,
the story?
please.
So for one of our retreats, we have food teams. And you were sharing the food team with someone, and they had just made a shopping list of things that you were going to use in your dish, whatever. I think it was a salad or something like that. And it was I call it a jicama. Jicama. And so, but you had no experience with it.
I
because
never even heard of this.
Yeah.
I didn't even know, like, if it was going to be in a can, or if it was going to be, like, is it like a dry product, like, next to, like, bulk pasta? Like, I had no idea what it was.
So how did you find out?
A jicama. So I wandered around Whole Foods for, like, way too long because I was embarrassed. And then eventually I found a person who took pity on me, and he was looking at me like, is she okay? And I said, I'm looking for this jicama. And he looked at me and laughed and was like, a jicama's over here, and showed me what it was.
Yeah. So but I think that, and again, it's not a level of quality or status or whatever. It's just a level of experience, right? And so, yes, but you've gone from that to
Holy Sacred TikTok level of cooking.
Yeah. What was the last thing you made?
Last thing I made is I made a breakfast, like a protein breakfast oatmeal bake. Ooh. It was a cinnamon roll flavor. Mm-hmm. So I used like cinnamon roll protein powder, and I made it, and it's oats. So it's basically like, you could think of it like oatmeal, but condensed. Mm-hmm. So it's a little bit more portable. I like portable food.
So you can eat while doing other things, like driving
or walking around a campus, right? Okay. And then I made like a high protein, low sugar cottage cheese icing.
Ooh,
air quotes icing for the cinnamon roll.
Yeah, sweet.
It literally was. Yeah.
Wonderful. But see, that's when it's so delightful for me to experience moving from what's a jicama to I'm making this, and the ease with which you can say, like, without panicking, like, oh my God, I have to do this thing. You know, it sounds like the source that you have is very accessible, and it allows you to kind of figure stuff out as she's doing it. I think so. Like,
if they can do it in a short social media segment, I think that means it's simple enough that for me right now it feels approachable. And then I can figure it out combined with like my Googling skills. Like, what does Blanche mean? Then I can do it. So that's where I'm at. The
joys of cooking
with food. That's where I am. I do want to say I don't like cooking for others, because then I start going back to my check-in, people pleasing and all that. Like, stress. I get very anxious about being able to bring what I'm doing to others. But right now, if it's just me and or my partner, I'm okay.
Yay, cool.
So that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
I am so excited to hear this, because I love it when you talk about food. Can you share where you are?
Sure. So my growing up experience is slightly different. I come from a lot, and people, I think someone once wrote this in one of these Black Southern cookbooks. It was because that was one of the few ways that slaves had control or autonomy. It's like they would be given these ingredients, and then they would figure out like different ways of cooking them up for their families, etc. So anyway, so I come from a long line of people, not just women, who were very handy in the kitchen and loved being in the kitchen and would love, baby, you need some more. Wait, get some more of that. What are you doing? You got an empty inch on your plate, you know, that kind of stuff. Where food, like you say, food was love, like your grandmother. Food was love. Food was community. Food was laughter. Food was, you know, shoving your shoulder up against whoever was sitting next to you and laughing at someone across the table, and you know, so it was an experience, and it was something. It was literally a party in your mouth, you know. And if you want to go with the sexual association, you can. But it literally, like, the you know, you fed something and then you watched their faces. They ate the first bite. You know, that kind of stuff. So there was that. I love to cook. I love the experience of cooking. That's magic for me. I get the WOW Library. Are you familiar with that? It's a newsletter of our library when they get new acquisitions. Oh, okay. And you can put a hold in on it. When the cookbooks, I love perusing cookbooks. I rarely actually make a lot of the recipes from the cookbooks, but I like them for inspiration and the beautiful pictures and all that kind of stuff. Wow. So yeah, I know.
Cookbooks make me anxious.
Yeah, well, yeah, because you didn't grow up, you know, like my mom. When my mom died, the two things that I definitely took, one of her cookbooks that has like recipes cut out of newspapers, yellow paper, all of these where she took something and she rewrote it, stuffed in there, and I have that one, and then I have one from a garage sale, not a garage sale, but a bequest of books from someone in the community. And it was kind of the same thing. This woman who had a cookbook, a well-loved cookbook, and had all these other recipes shoved in. And I keep the recipes just where they were, even if they're not in a logical space, because I want to hold on to that woman's love for food and her care and her thought and her planning and her experience. And sometimes the experience was successful, and you could see where they scrawled out something or things like that. And that to me is so much a part of the food experience, is all of that stuff. One of the things, and I do like feeding people. I like, and I think it comes from that tradition. And so one of the things that I really enjoy doing, and so when I say feeding people, I like cooking for them, but I also like feeding them, not necessarily like, here comes, here's the plane coming in the hangar, but, just, preparing food and serving food. And so one of the things that we do at some of our retreats, I'm the beverage priestess. And that means that not only do I make the drinks, but I kind of get upset when people try to serve themselves. And I like, where are you going? And I like to bring you your tea and hand it to you with love and stuff. So I probably have this may be why I don't have a person in my life. I have way too much of a relationship with food. But it's very much an experience. And then the other point I should just make, since we were talking about the Enneagram, is that as an Enneagram 2, I have to make sure that I don't derive a whole lot of ego in it. And so I have to be really, really careful and try to not be humble, as they say, but also recognize that there's places where I can take that where it becomes transactional and etc. So I have to guard against that, because it's my shiny, and so I have to make sure that I'm not letting the shiny blind me to the shadow.
I feel like we could talk about shiny and shadow. We have, but like...
yeah, maybe we need to do an episode on shiny versus shadow.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
I'm gonna while you're talking more, I'm gonna write that down. And this is a real window into how we will never run out of things to talk about.
Well, because I think we find a lot of things fascinating. We like to discuss it, and then our listeners just go along for the ride, I guess. So.
I do. Can I? And I already mentioned it, but I wanted to just say again how much I love the what you've brought to my life with food, and like the way that you have taken me out for my birthday, which I which I really appreciate, and it's just something that I don't know what. It's just no one in my life has really shown up in that unique way. And I have like lots of people showing up in other ways, which is really fun, like film parties in my garage, or whatever. Like it's not like a complaint, but like you just have really shown me a really unique way of looking at food and
as a social activity.
As a social activity,
okay,
yeah,
gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess
so. It's one of many ways that you have enriched my life.
Thank you. I'm so glad. So let's kind of hop from our personal experiences to just, maybe how we see it out in the dominant culture. I'm going to try not to start on a rant because
I was kind of hoping you would, but I'm like literally leaning back. I'm like, let's do it.
But there's what I find interesting is that we're kind of fed the idea of food. I've been around you so long that I've begun to hear these things. But we're not really actually fed the enjoyment of food. We're not really fed the nourishment of food. We're shown shiny pictures. What comes to mind is I think it was an Applebee's or a Chili's. Not, they're okay restaurants, but they're not like you're not going there for high quality. Well, you wouldn't go there for high quality meat anyway, but I wouldn't go there for high quality steaks or anything like that. And they show these pictures. I don't know how they get. I guess you hear the sizzling, and then they drop it, and it looks this really juicy, like hamburger or something like that, and it's dripping a little bit of it's not greasy, but it's dripping a little bit of this beautiful moisture that's showing that if you bite into it, it's going to be one of these life-changing experiences. And then they rarely, because on TV, I guess they can't really show people chewing because it's like an awkward, it's like showing people like shitting or something. It's a really awkward activity. You never see people actually enjoying the food. What you see is like their faces when it comes, and you know that their studies have shown that when someone comes out with food, that what's the black part of your eye?
Your pupil?
Your pupils like expand.
Dilate, yeah.
Dilate. And so they make people, I don't know if they give them eye drops or something, but all the people at the table will have those blown eyes, and they show them sitting there and laughing and chatting and all of this stuff that I'd mentioned earlier, but they never actually show them enjoying the food. And on television and films and stuff, if you see food, it's really to show you that it's a high class restaurant or something like that. You know, it's expensive or whatever, but they never show. For me, I think I mentioned this, that when you take that first bite and your eyes just have to close because there's this explosion of taste in your mouth and then your saliva, juiciness from your saliva and juiciness from the food, and you just can't, you have to take a moment. You can't talk, you can't chew, you can't do anything. They never show that. And that would make me go to the restaurant. But I guess, they're in marketing, they know what sells, and actually eating food apparently doesn't sell.
I would agree with you. Yeah, they're not really marketing the food. They're marketing the, like, come have a good time.
The atmosphere. Yeah.
Come be with your family. If you eat here, you have something to do with your like high social class. You have something to do.
Yeah. You're not alone or whatever. So I just find that really, really strange. And, so I wonder what is, I wonder, and I suspect that it's another way of distancing us from ourselves and our bodies. So when you sit and you can really enjoy something, not use like a drug, not use it to numb you, or not use it to forget something, or not use it to pretend that your life is something different, to just sit in that moment and enjoy that flavor, or to sit in that moment and enjoy the feeling of a park bench against your butt. All of that is being so present. And I'm convinced that most of the industry in our world, the corporate beings and entities in our world, survive by keeping us in kind of this matrix, this kind of this imaginary world where they control what we want, as opposed to us just being really solid and centered and knowing and feeling and knowing exactly this moment is it.
Thank you for saying that. As somebody who is like very health conscious in a number of ways, like in an athletic way, because I think there's a number of ways to be health conscious, and they're all different and with different focuses. So I don't feel like I'm dominating in like health conscious world, but like health conscious in like an athletic sort of way. I see two things that are really very apparent to me are this like food being sold as like, let's make it cheaper and bigger. Like how can we make this cheaper, bigger, more filling, and access these different parts of our brains that will make us want to eat more, so we can sell you more for less, which means bigger profit. And then the opposite of that, which is like, how can we market this to make you think that if you eat this, you'll be skinnier, hotter, younger, sexier, right?
Exactly.
Which is two very different, sometimes different marketing strategies, but like neither of which are, I think, authentic.
Yeah, neither of which care about you.
Right,
yeah,
right.
Like they don't care about you or your actual experience of eating food.
And I find that I'm turned off equally to both. To both of those, where I'm like, I don't like both of them. I'm just like, ugh. Both of them leave me feeling ugh.
Right.
So
yeah. And I don't mean to imply that like all restaurants. I'm talking about marketing for. And I say marketing for chains, but I'm just talking about marketing in general, because the basic idea is that they're trying to make you buy something, to encourage you, to strengthen your desire to buy something. So, and
I think I love the way that we're talking about this though, because we both love going to a good restaurant. Like the restaurant you took me to is French.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And the way, what is that called? It starts with an R?
The raclette.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And the way you like described it to me as if it were a commercial before we went, and the way that they like blowtorch the cheese and then they like scrape it slowly off
the melted part,
and it's like melting and it's slowly go, and like the experience of I'm like salivating right now. The experience of watching them gently but forcefully like press and it's scraping this cheese and it's dripping down, and then oh my god, it looks so good, it smelled so good, and then we got to eat. Like that is, man, what if they do that on TV? Like I would be like, yes, please.
Yeah, be there every day. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, and so I think I think what they're selling us is something that they know we want, which is this experience. But they obviously they can't. It's marketing. It's marketing. They can't sell you the experience. But when you get to these places, often you don't get that experience that you think you're going to get. So it's, I don't know. I just think I think it's just another way in which we're encouraged to like you say, be inauthentic, to be not present, and not to see the world the way it is and enjoy the world the way it is.
And I feel this sense, and I mentioned it in the kitchen episode that we did on the magical household. I do feel a sense of reclaiming that from our culture and like trying to untangle it from sexism and capitalism and colonialism and then and commercialism and reclaim it as this, like even whenever and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but even whenever I'm trying to learn little things like, oh, avocados, healthy fats. It's good. It's good for working with my high cholesterol. Like just trying to like learn like little things instead of like, I'm going to try to eat more avocados. Why? Like, what is it about that food? Like really trying to get to know that plant for what it is in a way that I like to think about it like generations and generations ago, like when people were really plugged into the food as medicine.
Exactly. Yeah. So, let's actually talk a little bit more. As we talk about the dominant culture, I'd like to not preface because we've already been talking for about a half hour, but I'd like to continue by saying that I consider myself to be in an enviable position when it comes to food, and that I'm surrounded by like 3 different supermarkets that within 10 minutes. All of them slightly different, have different, goals. Like I have a Whole Foods, I have our local grocer, city / state based, and then we have a natural grocers is what they're called. So I have and there's Sprouts, and so I have a lot of choice, and so because of that I can make decisions that I think really really reflect my beliefs and my goals for my health. And I'd like to just say here that with all of this discussion, I'd like to recognize the fact that some people don't have that opportunity. Some people don't have that ability. We've used this term, I think, before, food deserts, where these choices are just not available. Where I'm going to slice up some jicama on my salad, right? With some avocado. But if I've mentioned, I grew up with a number of people who lived where they didn't have these type of grocery stores unless it was like 15, 20 minutes away, where you needed a car, to be able to get there. You needed to make sure that either if you had kids, you had someone to take care of the kids, or you had to take the kids with you, which is another complication. So that right there is an issue. But then also when you get to some of these stores, to the grocery store, if you get to the grocery stores, that depending on your location, they're different. We joke about like the different types of versions of our local, I can just say it, can't I? The H-E-B is our local, like some people have Kroger's or Albertsons have something, H-E-B is our major chain here. And we talk about, different neighborhoods, what's available is dramatically different. But in some places where you don't even have access to a grocery store, you have to go to the local kind of mom and pop shop, and where it's mainly canned foods, canned, packaged, processed foods. if they have any fresh fruit or vegetables, it's probably a sad head of lettuce, or maybe some tomatoes or orange or apples or something. So it's just those are the if you have that, so those are the type of choices that and those are not the foods that the products that they push. They'll what's at the front of the store, what's the most easy to see would be cigarettes, lottery tickets. Sodas, things like that. And so for people for whom that's their reality, I can imagine that with a great deal of effort, you can develop a relationship, a healthy relationship with food, but there are fewer inspirations, fewer motivations, fewer tools.
Yeah. And if I was in that situation, I might not have the luxury of being able to purchase all these fresh ingredients, which then I would have to cart home. And if I'm on the bus or if I'm holding children, that's hard. And then, the purchasing an onion might cost me 76 cents, but do I have the ability to chop it? Yeah. Do I have the time to cook it? Do I have the ability to do the rest? Like I told you, that those recipes it's like 30 grams of protein in under 30 minutes, and it takes me about an hour to cook it because I have to look up what blanching means. Like, do I have the time to do that? Am I in a privileged enough position to be able to do that? And then if I make the food, can I then store it? Can I then feed it to people? It's complicated.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's so complicated, and I mean, I would imagine that there's so many tough choices that it's just easier to say, fuck it, let's go to Taco Bell,
for sure,
and just grab something there, and or if I'm between two jobs, if I have my day gig and then I've got a couple of hours to get the kids fed, get them started on homework, and change and go to my night gig. Mm-hmm. That's Taco Bell is my only choice. Mm-hmm. I don't have time to do the kind of cooking that we've just been talking about.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so as a middle-aged white woman who drinks, as I drink like my morning, mushroom matcha tea with oat milk froth. I'd like to talk about farmers markets.
Yes, please do.
And I just want to say that sometimes I feel like the Venn diagram between me and Karen's is a little bit too much like a circle.
Oh my gosh!
Instead of a Venn diagram.
Oh my gosh! Wait, when you mean Karens?
Yeah, like Karens, like white ladies, And I think it shows up for me in a lot of places, but one of them being like this farmers market stuff. Mm-hmm. So can we talk about farmers markets?
Yeah, let's talk about farmers markets. Yeah. Okay. So first off, there's I'm sure there's tons of different types of farmer markets. The kind I like are the kinds that they have within about a couple of miles of here, where it's pretty much maybe 10 to 20 different vendors. They all pretty much have the same thing because they all drove up from the valley, right? Which is the closest Texas has to a breadbasket, right? And it's seasonal food. It's whatever they're growing, et cetera, et cetera. That is, that used to be the norm. But now what we start to see are what I call boutique farmers markets. So they'll have a couple of farmers, and then they'll have the soap makers and candle makers or candle sellers or whatever. They'll have, someone with arts and craft. Of course, there'll be a musician. They'll have someone selling lattes, maybe with the oat foam. With the oat foam. There's going to be like some cinnamon buns or something that's going to be, so that's becoming the type that I see the most here in San Antonio, and that's so sad because that's more like a craft fair to me,
Yeah, and I have been to, I don't know how many, I've been to the farmer's market in this very trendy part of town. It pops up on the weekends, and I'm normally there because of acro or some other thing, and I wasn't until this episode that I realized I have been there over 100 times. I've literally never bought a vegetable.
Yeah. And that's because it's they're not, it's kind of like our discussion of food in the media, that's not, they say that's what they're there for ostensibly, but no, they're there to make a lot of money, and you make a lot of money on candles, not on cucumbers. So like I said, I hope we'll see, no, they're closing up now, but in the spring when they open up again, I hope that there's going to be, they kind of shut down during COVID. The farmers markets where, like I said, they literally have the same thing. When you choose which set of cucumbers, they don't give you the box because they need the box. They pour it in a bag, and that kind of type of produce. And and I should note that I joined a CSA. Did I tell you that?
You did.
Yeah. And so that has been fun because it's whatever they're cooking, whatever they're growing. And right now it's been a lot of okra, which is, I mean, if you some people think it's very, very slimy, but there's ways of doing it where it's not slimy. So we can talk. But anyway, but yeah, so in that way you can support, it's community supported agriculture. And did I tell you about this place? It's great. What they use are undeveloped lots. They make an agreement with the developers that until they sell it or whatever, they can farm it.
Oh.
Isn't that brilliant?
I love that.
Yeah, so they have stuff that they're growing in their house, but then they have a couple of lots nearby that they've been growing. I mean, and we're talking about like food, like corn, beans, real food.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
Yeah. So anyway, it's out there, but again, like I said, I consider myself to be pretty privileged in that I knew, I knew someone to ask, or they knew to advertise to me or whatever, and people don't have that. And that's one of the things that when we talk about like this divide in our country, it's not just the money, but it reflects so many other things, and particularly health and food. As you say, food is medicine, and if you don't have the ability to wield it that way, there's so much that's going to be missing.
Can we talk about food in relationship to travel?
Yes, we can.
I'm so excited. So I love food in relationship to travel, particularly that it gives me a window into these other cultures. And I love traveling and seeing, what do people here eat? How do they eat? What is the cultural like whenever they are sitting down together? What type of foods do they serve? What type of foods don't they serve? How are they served? I just think it's really, really cool. And I am a vegetarian, and I've never really had that big of a problem whenever I travel. But it also adds another lens of like, how do I navigate this culture respectfully whenever I am trying not to eat meaty stuff. So one of the things I loved, I wrote down on our outline that was so fun, was when we were in northern Spain for the Camino. This is an example about the culture. They don't consider pork a meat over there.
Yeah, they'd say, I can't remember, carne, and you'd say, no.
Yeah, sin carne.
No. Cerdo?
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah, like it was really, yeah.
And then it's like you'd order a salad, and it never occurred to them that they shouldn't put tuna on your salad.
Yeah.
Because they were slamming tuna on there right, left, and center, weren't they?
Like, sin atún,
Yeah.
So, and I just think that that's really cool to go in a way of being humble and being like, well, I consider pork meat, but being like, do other cultures?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so I'm with them, so I need to navigate it respectfully as to how they have it organized in their cultural brain.
Exactly. And so it's insight into how they're thinking as well. Yeah, yeah. I never thought of it that way, but for sure, I just basically put Italy on down there for me, because I've lived in Italy for off and on over the past 20 years, and oh my gosh, you talk about people who love themselves some food and love everything. They it was like you're my people, except you're not, but you're my people. but that whole thing where even grating cheese on your pasta, they would look you in the eye, like you didn't say when, you would just like look at them, and you'd look down at the food and look at them, and then you just like do a slight nod, and then they'd nod back, and it's like, baby, I guess they'd say buon appetito. I don't know if they ever said that because they knew you were going to enjoy it. They wouldn't wish it, or they wouldn't serve it to you. And so like little things like you were talking about, like they would never put grated cheese on like a if you had something like clams or whatever, or seafood, because that was, so it's just a different way of thinking about thinking about food. And oh my gosh, I love them so much. You'd go to a restaurant and they wanted you to feel like you were home at your house. And because many times I would be by myself because I'd be there doing research, and they're so solicitous if you're by yourself. They check with you. They'd sit down and go over the menu. And at one time I was a vegetarian, and then another time I was doing like low carbs in Italy. It's possible. It's possible. Now I think it's a little bit easier, but at the time I was telling them, and they looked at me so sad, like, oh honey, you're not that fat, but I didn't. But I just wanted to say, it was a whole lot of other things as well, like you say, blood sugar and things like that. But they're just they want to make sure that you're having a fabulous food, fantastic time. So Italy, just saying.
When I traveled in like China and Vietnam and some other places in that area, it was really cool. A cheat code I found was just telling them I was Buddhist.
Ah, okay.
And then I never had trouble because it was just really easy.
That makes sense. So, yeah. Oh, that's sweet. Yeah. I love that because that was like their shorthand for the types of foods that would be appropriate.
Yeah, if I just said I was Buddhist, like they knew exactly what to feed me. So that was really fun.
That's good to know. Thank you. Yay. Okay. So, food.
Sensual food.
Food can be, think about it. Literally, it's eating food is essential because you're using your senses. Most people think about their taste buds, but you're actually, for your taste buds to work best, you have to smell the food first, and then there's the tactile. There's putting it on the plate. I think you mentioned eating food with your hands.
I love eating food with my hands.
So, what kind of foods do you like to eat with your hands?
Anything that is not super messy. So, for example, I meal prep last week. I did like a pasta-y type dish, vegetable pasta dish, and then I had grapes and green beans that were salted with some vegan butter. And so I ate the grapes and the green beans with my hands.
I gotcha. Yeah. So, but not the pasta.
Not the pasta because it's like kind of
okay,
slimy, saucy. So
I never thought about. Yeah, I guess I never thought about that. I eat sandwiches and, I guess barbecue. Yeah. But okay, I have to think about the tactile part of it. Well, no, that does make sense because certain things just don't feel right with your hands, right? Yeah.
And part of it is about 10 to 15 years ago, I took a sensual eating workshop and we learned a lot about the stuff that goes on our brains when we eat with our hands. And so I totally buy into all of that. And I think that that's really great. Also, it's just annoying to carry a fork with me. And since I'm eating on the go, it just is easier to use. So
your paw. Yeah, there you
use my paw to eat instead of carrying a fork around.
There we go. I love that. Well, so when we talk about, I think I mentioned that when we were talking about senses, I think I mentioned that the idea of the first bite. And that to me is one of those experiences where it's not Kimberlyn, it's Kimberlyn's senses that are doing all the work, and Kimberlyn's just there for the ride, and I'm just letting them play. And that like you said, you were salivating when you were talking about something, like the juices start flowing in your mouth just thinking about it, just starting and which is an evolutionary, it's starting to digest. But anyway, but also, it's a part of that delight, that anticipation. And so I guess it's senses and it's probably also my mind as well. But the anticipation of it, and then the it of it, right?
And at one of the camps that we go to, they always gather us together and tell us the meal, and they describe what ingredients are in it, and it's just such a part of the experience. And then seeing it as we serve ourselves, and then carrying, so I'm smelling it, and then we carry it back to the table, and then we eat, and we're around amazing people. It's just such a such a center of the experience.
One of the camps that I organize, the only camp that I organize, but our cook is very much into. Oh, our cook who has been on our show. When we interviewed the Witches Next Door. So he's the cook for this camp. And if you walk through the kitchen or past the kitchen during the day while they're preparing, he often stops you and asks you to throw some magic in there. And so it's filled with a whole lot of other things other than carrots and broth and all that kind of stuff. But he for him, food is magic. And he infuses his food with so much more than just the effort, which is also, anytime you stir something, that's magic because you're literally using your energy to do that. So you're putting energy in there. So people who may not consider themselves to be witchy are doing what I'd consider witchy spells when they're cooking.
One of my sexiest moments in ritual that I've ever experienced was with you, and it was during the ritual that I did with Earth My Lover.
Oh yes.
And you were walking around carrying a pot of honey.
Yes, Oshun's honey pot.
Oh my god, I remember looking at you and being like, that is sexy as fuck.
Yeah. Did I drip honey in your mouth?
Yes, you did.
It was a lot of fun. It had the stirrer that looks like a little beehive, but it has grooves in it that catches the honey. So it'll hold it just long enough to get it out of the thing, and it starts dripping really fast. So you've got to get it to wherever it's going to be dripping pretty quickly. So I'm so glad.
So hot.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
So good.
Yes. Yeah. But again, maybe this is our segue to food and ritual, but. Smells and tastes have so many associations built into them, and so when you're talking about a specific a smell, it can take you back to the first time you smelled it, like when you were 6 or 7 years old or something like that. And so using that's a powerful tool to use in ritual. And so I think for one of our workings we did, it was Lammas. So. It was like you're talking about the late summer and the heat of summer and biting into a peach and the juices from the peach dripping down your chin and down, and you don't care because you're so enjoying it, and your hands are getting messy and just all of that, and the sweetness, and that's just wonderful.
It's so good.
Yes. Yeah. I can't remember what our intention was, but. I think it was enjoying the first harvest or something like that. Yeah.
I don't even. I guess that tells you how powerful that part of the ritual was for me. I don't remember anything else other than peeling that and that fruit, and you talking about it, and me just like my whole body did what my pupils do. like expanding. I was just like, oh my gosh,
yeah.
It was so powerful to do. Something so simple in a ritual space with that sort of container built around it.
With that intensity. Yeah. Great. Yeah. And that's not to say that, throughout time, people haven't used food as either part of their ritual or afterwards, like with cakes and ale.
I remember learning about the ritual of cakes and ale. So I started practicing with a group my freshman year of college. And after ritual, we would sit on. So we were just these little. I was just a tiny little baby witchlet, like little witchling, and we would like sit on a blanket and eat bread and drink. I think it might have been wine. I'm not exactly sure. And call it the ritual of cakes and ale. And we would do that like in this like special space, and then we would open the circle later. And I remember just thinking like, this is just the coolest thing, and like. Adult witch Leilani, who has so much experience, looks back on that and it's just like, it's just such a sweet, such a sweet little chunk of my, like these little windows in my life.
Yeah.
So cute.
Where you're exploring like the delights of a witchy lens.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's again, it's not just, you don't just see that in pagan circles. I mean, obviously Christianity has that too, with communion, and there's some doctrinal layering onto that with transubstantiation, where it's supposed to be, as you're saying the body and blood, it actually becomes that kind of stuff. And so, so many cultures tap into it, to what extent they allow the experience to become individualized may differ. But yeah, it's a powerful tool. So, I mean, taking away from the experiential aspect of it, it can be utilized in a way that can intensify the experience.
And seeing, when we were in Spain, not to bring it back to the Camino again, but totally to bring it back to the Camino
because can we have an episode without mentioning it? Not for at least a year, right?
I'm wondering, maybe one of our listeners will tell us when we finally do an episode without mentioning it after we did it. But seeing that chalice, yes, and the wafer on the flag in Spain, and knowing that even before Christianity took it, it was that symbol for the ocean and the sun.
Yes.
And the sun dipping into the ocean. I cried, and I have so many videos of just the flag. I mean, the flag is just, and it's like, why do I have? But I just stood there, like, crying, looking at the flag, at that symbol, because of like how sacred that ritualistic use of food was to them, and how it was theatrically reenacting this sacred occurrence that happened in nature.
Right? Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's a obviously food is super important or you die, right? But then the ways in which we've realized its impact in so many different ways that, I mean, obviously evolutionarily eating food has to have some sort of pleasure, or to a greater or lesser extent, depending on who you are, or we wouldn't do it. Right. So it had to have been made pleasurable so that we keep doing it so we survive. Right. So that's like the base bottom line fundamental. But then as humans are wont to do, we, the senses are there. Right. So why not play with them as much as possible? As long as you're not interfering with someone else's experience. Right. Yeah.
So maybe as a checkout, we could talk about what is our favorite food or cuisine and why?
Sure. Okay, I'll start.
Okay.
My favorite tends to be like carby stuff, bread, and various types of bread. I remember it was so well known that how much I loved bread that I used to, when I was in college, I would always bring someone home at Thanksgiving because they couldn't get to wherever their home was, and they would come after we graduated, and I went to grad school, and some of those people still went to my mother's house for Thanksgiving, and they laid, it was like a Jeremiah in the Jewish tradition. They laid a plate for me and they put a little roll there for me. Yeah, but I love breads. I love carbs. I love the textures. I love the way they soak up like fats and sauces and juices and stuff like that. So mainly breads. I wrote breads, full stop.
You did.
So yeah, and then like cuisines, obviously Italian because I grew that, and I know the most about Italian food because I've lived with Italian cooks and I've been there a lot. I love Thai food, Indian food, Chinese food. I don't know a lot about them as much. I just kind of know what I like. But carbs. What about you?
Love that. Okay. Straight off the bat, I also used all caps. Anything sweet. I love creamy. I love fruity. My favorite food: donuts, cheesecake, cheese blintzes. You can see a trend here. I have a memory of literally eating a dozen donuts in one sitting when I was in high school.
Damn.
I did that, and I wasn't even doing it on purpose. Like I remember just noticing, like, oh, the whole box is gone. I did that.
Oh my gosh! Okay,
sweet little 16-year-old Leilani just pounding down a dozen glazed donuts.
To have that metabolism,
right? I know. I look back at that now and I'm like, okay. As an adult, Leilani, I love vegan food. I love farm to market food. There's a restaurant in San Antonio that specializes in farm to market. It's for me, it feels very upscale. I don't go there very often, but I try to go there as often as I can because they have a seasonal menu. The food is beautiful. The food is flavorful. The food is is healthy. I leave there feeling full, but not heavy. And that's my favorite. There's also another restaurant in town that I really love going to, but unfortunately it's on the literal, if you folded San Antonio in half on a piece of paper, it would be the opposite side of San Antonio for me. And it's a vegan restaurant, and they also like have a lot of really great mocktails and mixed health elixirs, and like that's really fun for me. So I love that stuff because it's like small, locally owned businesses, so my money is going right to these real people that are living in this part, and they're using locally grown produce that's seasonal when possible. And so I just feel like that's better for the planet because there's less carbon emissions. It's like really unique. And as somebody who, I don't eat meat, and so like I just wouldn't eat any meat, but I also don't really drink. So having like these fun mixed like health elixirs are just so, it's just so fun for me. So I just really enjoy that.
Yay. Well, that's good to know. I like that sweet thing. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I guess you did have desserts. We had desserts when we were on the community.
Yes.
Did we? What did we have?
Oh my gosh. And when you wouldn't finish yours, I ate whatever you
Okay.
I frequently ate. Because you blew my mind. You didn't even eat all your desserts all the time. And so I would just reach across the table and slide that sucker right over to me.
Which was nice because I'd slide your wine over to me. So
I was happy to give you my wine, and I just kind of usurped your dessert.
Okay.
We had a lot of flan.
Okay, that's coming back. Yeah.
At one time, you ordered a pear or something, and they just gave you a pear. Or
one time they brought me like a pear, like literally the pear. But one time I ordered. So I was thinking, okay, fresh fruit, blah blah blah, and I ordered pineapple, and it was like you could hear the can opening in the kitchen. Yeah. It's like, okay, well there you go.
And it was canned pear, and then like to take
that's what it was,
or canned pineapple. But to take us back to like how sometimes I'm worried the Karen Venn diagram is like more like a circle. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, you're giving me canned pineapple? I at least want it and they're like, okay, calm down. Just be grateful for what you have. Sometimes I have those moments. And then they did a lot of like puddings and like,
that's coming back to me. Yeah. So, okay.
I happily ate all of your dessert that you did every time. Thank you.
Glad.
Thank you for that.
Because I filled up on the breads. And
the wine.
And the breads, like
the breads and the wine, and I was like, hand me that dessert, please.
Exactly. That was lovely. Well, we travel well together.
We do travel well together in many ways. That is one of them.
Yeah, yeah. One thing I wanted to put in one last plug is for people who would love to see examples of food as love, the film, it's I think from the 90s, is Babette's Feast. It's a Swedish, I can't remember. I think the film is a French film, but I think it's set in maybe Sweden or Finland or something like that. And it's basically this woman who, pretty much half the movie is just her preparing this feast for these people. And, like close-ups on her grinding the coffee with the old-fashioned coffee grinder, and I mean, it's just, you just sit there and you drool. You have to eat while you watch this film. If you don't, you're going to be in torment. So get a good, don't try to eat Taco Bell. Try to get some good food and eat while you watch that, or you'll just die. And then one other is Chocolat, which is mainly about chocolate, but again, very sensual. How there was this one cold woman, and how after she started eating this chocolate made by this woman, it's a special chocolate, she kind of loosened up and became a little bit more lively, etc. So, those are just two films if you want to see some of the things that we've been talking about in action.
Chocolate that'll loosen me up? Sold.
Yeah, maybe we'll watch that film one day.
Well, thank you so much for joining us as we explore our relationship to food in so many different ways, including ritual. Thank you for being here with us, and we hope that you found this episode delicious.
Yeah, me too. Yes.
We hope you have enjoyed the magic that has unfolded here at Witchy Wit.
It would be great if you would help make Witchy Wit possible and get access to exclusive content by donating on Patreon.
We'd love it if you join our Witchy community and enjoy shareable content on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
Would you do us a big favor and support us by rating and reviewing us wherever you get your podcasts? It's free and helps witchy folks find us.
Feel free to email us at witchywitpodcast@gmail.com. We love to hear from our community. Reach out and let us know what's brewing in your cauldron.
New episodes are released every second and fourth Friday. Follow us on your favorite podcasting platform so our episodes go right to your playlist. You can listen as you ride your broom.
Stay witchy, y'all!